Hello, I'm Malta, and this is a painting by Count Amadeo Preziosi, who was a Maltese-born painter who fundamentally fell out with his father and then disappeared into the Eastern Mediterranean and became a very prolific artist and successful artist and very famous artist. And he did travelling art, rather like Edward Lear did, in Greece and Albania and Turkey. He lived in Turkey, he died in Turkey, he had a studio where he would sell to visitors and friends and notable people. And there's a lot of Preziosi material. There are not only the paintings he did, there are the chromolithographs which were made for him, usually in fact in bound albums. And apart from the real Preziosis and the known prints by Preziosi, there is quite a big industry in lookalikes and maybe possible Preziosis. It's not a matter of there being fake ones so much, it's a matter of there being quite a lot of artists which have the Preziosi look. And I myself, when I see some of the sort of French Foreign Legion-ish colonial pictures, a lot of the French 19th century painters had studies of horses and camels and this sort of stuff. It looks rather like the Preziosi work. It's not the same, but it looks very similar. So it's confusing, and in the absence of a signature, or the absence of it being one of his unsigned ones, which you can check to see if there's a print, for example, of a painting, you need to be very careful. You can tell to a degree, and some of the lookalike ones on closer scrutiny you can weed out, but it's very difficult, and there's such a lot of product out there that could be by Preziosi and is being touted as Preziosi that, as I say, you need to be careful. So just to go over that one more time, you have Preziosi doing paintings. He didn't sign all of his paintings, he didn't date all of his paintings. From memory, there are some monogrammed ones as well, not many. And we know that some of them were not signed because he published some albums where some of the published pictures were signed and some weren't. So we know some weren't signed. So if you buy a painting which is not signed, if you can find a print from one of his albums, then you can authenticate it from the prints. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at the brushwork and things like that. I hope I haven't confused you. So this one is a unsigned Preziosi. We have documentation to say it is by the same artist. It is attributed to. It is the same hand as Preziosi, but it's not signed. And this one is a Turkish, or at least a Eastern Mediterranean street hawker, and what he's selling is music and the services of a dancing bear with a chain nose, rather sad. So he's got a stick which you would use to whack the bear to get it jumping around. He's got a chain which you would use to yank the nose to get it jumping around, and you have this poor bear, young bear, with a orange ribbon around its neck. So he has a huge tambourine. He has this club or this stick. He has a bag which will probably contain food for the bear. He's got a fur hat, and he has these sort of sandal type boots. So this one has been painted on a very dark piece of paper. We've had it framed to make it to give it so it's contained safely and yet can be inspected. And you'll notice that the paper is dark brown, chocolatey brown, very, very dark brown. And in the range of Preziosi papers, that's probably as dark as it gets. The paper on the front has faded slightly, but it's still dark. And sometimes he used coloured paper to give him a head start. And the idea really is he doesn't have to make a wash if it's already coloured. He can just get on with it. So he's used a pencil to scrub some shadow onto the ground. He has drawn with this pencil, or possibly charcoal, a figure, really, really well done. And he has put watercolour in some of the areas. For example, the face, the hand. There was some paint elsewhere, but it's not all painted, and none of the background is painted. Just relying on the shadow. So it's a technique, and if you look at his other works, you'll see this technique is repeated. when he gets to do buildings, interior scenes of Turkish buildings, for example, or the cemeteries near the Bosphorus in Istanbul, Constantinople, you'll notice that he uses much more colour, much more careful painting, and I have seen oil paintings by him as well. So it's Count Amadeo Preziosi, Maltese painter. Didn't do a lot of painting in Malta at all, but it's one of the things that people collect in Malta and elsewhere. This is a Malta. It is a single sheet of paper, unsigned. It is in a brand new frame. We've had it done with a double aspect so it can be looked at. And for someone who wants to tick the name off their list of wannabes, or wanna-haves I should say, this one is in Nashar for sale. It is not a huge amount of money because it's not signed. Thank you.